Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Like and subscribe to the channel, comment down below to notify where are you listening and what time it is. Story 1. The Screaming Canopy. Amazon Rainforest Horror. There are places in the Amazon where even the guides won't go. Luis didn't believe in that sort of thing. He was a practical man, ex-military, 38 years old, and one of the most respected eco-guides in Iquitos. But he knew to keep his mouth shut when the elders warned him, "Don't camp near the red-capped trees. That canopy screams." He laughed it off at the bar, but he didn't laugh 2 nights later. It was supposed to be a 2-day wildlife trek for tourists, 3 Americans and a German documentary student. They wanted raw jungle, untouched forest, something authentic. Luis gave it to them. No luxury tents, no signal, no satellite trackers. Just a compass, machetes, and boots thick enough to stop a snake bite. They set camp near a cluster of tall, red-capped cebas. The air was thick, too still. Luis kept glancing up at the canopy. That's when the German girl, Anika, asked, "Why don't the birds make noise here?" Luis didn't answer. Not yet. Night fell hard and fast, the way it only does deep in the jungle. Rain started soft at first, then it poured. They huddled under tarps, laughing, passing around a bottle of something warm. Then came the first scream. It didn't come from around them, it came from above. High. Too high for a human voice, and not a single bird called back. Everyone froze. "Is that an animal?" one of the Americans asked. Luis shook his head, pale. "No animal climbs that high. Not in rain." The scream came again, longer this time. It sounded like a woman. No, a child. A child crying in pure, sharp pain. Then silence. The jungle was holding its breath. They didn't sleep that night. Luis stood guard with his machete. He could feel it, that cold feeling you only get when something is watching. Something that doesn't blink. Anika tried recording audio on her phone. The battery drained in minutes. At sunrise, they found footprints. Not adult. Small. Barefoot. 12, maybe 15 of them in a perfect circle around the camp. But no broken twigs. No disturbed foliage. As if the child had floated. Luis wanted to leave. The tourists insisted they stay one more night. They were filming a documentary called Forgotten Wild. They thought it was a prank. They were fools. He didn't argue. He packed his bag silently. The second night was worse. The screaming started earlier, this time joined by laughter. Not human laughter. Guttural, shrill, like children playing in a broken playground. Then came the dripping. Inside Luis's tent, he lit his lantern. Blood. He ripped open the tent flap, nothing. No one. But blood was on the canvas above his head. Thick. Fresh. Anika screamed. Her tent zipper had been chewed open. Something licked her face, she said. Something cold with a tongue that left a black streak across her cheek. Luis yelled, "Pack now. We're leaving." They ran. No trail. No compass. GPS refused to lock. And then the canopy began to whisper. Not in wind, in words. "Stay. You came. You listen now." The Americans started panicking. One sobbing, the other muttering about faces in the leaves. Anika threw up twice. Luis forced them to keep moving. Then they saw it. A massive tree with shredded vines hanging like entrails. And high, nearly 50 feet up, a face carved into the bark. White eyes, childlike mouth. As they passed, the face bled from the eyes. They made it to the river by morning. No one said a word. Luis called for emergency pickup. No signal. The forest was still. The water smelled like rust. Only when the rescue chopper came 2 days later did the silence lift. When asked, none of them ever shared the footage. Anika deleted all her files and moved back to Germany. One of the Americans refused to speak about it. The other ended up in therapy. Luis, he quit guiding. Now he runs a boat dock in Iquitos, warning tourists, if you hear screaming in the canopy, don't look up, just run. End of Story 1. The Screaming Canopy. Story 2. The River That Vanishes. Amazon horror. Some rivers in the Amazon don't show up on any map. And some rivers don't stay still long enough to be mapped at all. The satellite photo was a mistake. That's what Dr. Emmanuel Cortez said. A jungle river suddenly appearing on a topographic scan, where nothing had ever been marked before. That shouldn't happen. But it was there, winding like a black vein through a dense stretch of untouched forest in northern Brazil. 3 days later, a 4-person research team set out to find it. They never came back. What makes this terrifying isn't that they disappeared. It's that someone found the boat, intact, floating in the center of the vanished river. No bodies, no footprints, just a single tape recorder left on the deck, still running. All it played was one sentence, looped again and again in a woman's voice. You shouldn't have come. Day 1, arrival. The team consisted of Dr. Emmanuel Cortez, environmental biologist, Theo, local navigator, Camila, hydromapping specialist, June, drone operator. They hired a riverboat, small and fast, and navigated toward the coordinates. Locals warned them, that's no river, that's a scar. But Emmanuel was too intrigued. The river didn't exist on maps 5 years ago. Something had opened it, and now it pulsed like a living wound through the jungle. They called it Rio Escondido, the hidden river. Day 2, the river. The forest around Rio Escondido was different. The air was too wet, too cold. Birds didn't call. Frogs were silent. Everything had a rotten, underwater smell, as if the trees were growing out of drowned bodies. Theo reported compass glitches. June's drone wouldn't hold GPS. They joked about the ghost river. That night, Camila went quiet. She sat alone on the boat deck, staring upriver. When Theo tried to talk to her, she whispered, "It's coming closer." When asked what, she didn't answer. She just turned off her headlamp and stared into the dark. Day 3, the first disappearance. June vanished before sunrise. No blood, no struggle. His drone was still flying, but the footage had been overwritten. Every clip was the same 12-second loop of the empty boat from above. On loop, on loop, on loop. Camila screamed when they found his boots, tied together, floating upright in the water. Theo panicked. He begged Emmanuel to turn back, but Emmanuel only stared at the river. "It's changing," he said. "Do you see it?" It was true, the river's curve had shifted. Overnight, it no longer followed the same route as on the satellite printout. The trees around it had bent away from it, like they were trying to escape the water. Nightfall, the tape. That night, they found an old recorder under one of the boat seats. Not theirs, covered in moss. Camila pressed play. A woman's voice whispered, "You shouldn't have come," kept repeating. Low, mechanical. Sometimes in the background something else clicked, like teeth tapping wood. That was when Theo saw it. a figure on the riverbank, pale, long arms, head tilted too far to the side. Watching them, he blinked, it was gone. They all slept with knives in their hands. Day 4, final message. Camila was gone. Her clothes were still folded neatly on the deck. Her journal was soaked in blood, but it wasn't hers. The entries became erratic toward the end. Final page. The river remembers. It opens when it's hungry, closes behind you. The water is not water. Emmanuel tried to start the motor. Nothing. He radioed for help. All he got was static. And the looped voice, "You shouldn't have come." Then he heard the splash. Theo had jumped into the water. No scream, no fight, just gone. Dr. Emmanuel Cortez was found 6 days later, curled up in the center of the riverboat, half-starved, holding the recorder in both hands. He couldn't speak, only cried. When the rescue team tried to move him, he screamed, "It's underneath us! Don't you hear it breathing?" They airlifted him to Manaus. He died that night, massive heart failure. No wounds, no toxins, just terror. The river, gone. No satellite, no drone, no on-foot team has ever located Rio Escondido again. Just a forest, as if it never opened in the first place. End of story 2. The River That Vanishes. Story 3. The Uncontacted Tribe. Amazon horror. They thought they found an uncontacted tribe. What they found wasn't human. Background. The Brazilian government occasionally receives reports of isolated tribes spotted deep in the Amazon. Most remain untouched, undisturbed, protected by law and geography. But in 2019, an international documentary crew funded by a streaming giant claimed they received drone footage of an unknown group of humanoids in a restricted zone. Bare-skinned, pale, thin, motionless. They moved like mannequins. No blinking, no speaking. They stood in a perfect circle, staring straight into the jungle canopy, as if watching something above. The footage was grainy, but it was enough for the producers to greenlight a crew. That footage was never released. Day 1, entering the zone. The 5-person team, Grant, host and face of the doc, Dr. Mina Alvarez, anthropologist, Silvio, indigenous liaison, Logan, cameraman, Reed, sound and drone operator. They hiked for 2 days into the uncharted zone known as Sector 17F, a stretch of land government helicopters avoided. Satellite data always came back scrambled. Silvio warned them, "No tribe lives here, only shadows." Grant laughed. "That's why we brought the cameras." Day 2, the still ones. On the second day, they found prints in the mud. Human barefoot, but wrong. The toes were too long, the arch flat, and the depth deep. Like whoever made them was far heavier than they looked. That night, Logan couldn't sleep. He kept hearing whispers behind his tent. A low, dry, clicking language that no one recognized. At 3:12 a.m., the drone's motion sensor activated. 10 humanoid figures stood just outside the tree-line, facing away, not toward the camp, away from it. They weren't moving, just listening, as if waiting for a cue. When they turned their heads, it was too slow, like their necks were unused to the motion. Then the footage cut. The drone dropped from the sky. Day 3, the circle. Silvio begged them to leave. "We are not supposed to be here," he said. "They are not meant to be seen." But Grant insisted they follow the trail deeper. That's when they found the circle. 12 humanoids, hairless, pale gray skin, eyes sunken and glassy, faces like sculptures, no emotion. They stood completely still in a perfect ring, arms down, heads tilted back. Above them, in the trees, bones. Hundreds of them, tied to the branches like ornaments. Human, monkey, bird, all picked clean. Logan whispered, "They're not breathing." Reed stepped too close. One of them blinked. The circle broke. The vanishing. They ran. Reed was the first to disappear. No scream, no fight. Just gone when they looked back. Then Logan dragged into the brush. All they heard was a dry crunch and one single gasp. Dr. Alvarez dropped to her knees, mumbling in Spanish, saying she saw her own face in the trees. Only Grant and Silvio made it to the river. They turned to look. Nothing. No trees. No bones. No trail. No sign they'd ever been there. 1 year later, Silvio returned alone to civilization. He never spoke about what happened. Wouldn't do interviews. Burned his passport. Grant? He was found a year later in Bogota, homeless, unshaven, staring at windows. When someone asked what happened in the jungle, he muttered, "They weren't a tribe. They were a warning." What kind of warning? That we were never alone in the forest. And that the forest doesn't want to be alone either. No evidence of Sector 17F has ever been found again. But sometimes drone operators still pick up faint movement, shapes standing in circles deep in the trees. Always watching the canopy. Always waiting. End of story 3, The Uncontacted Tribe.